Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do my transplant video. So this is the third and final video of my multiple myeloma diagnosis. If you are just clicking on my video for the first time, I definitely recommend you go back and watch from the beginning. I did a video where I was diagnosed with a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. And then I did a part 2, which I went over my treatment and then getting ready for the stem cell transplant. And then in this video, I am going to be talking about what happened right after I harvested my cells and went in for the transplant. So I got my notes here because there's like so much information. So definitely check out my first couple of videos and this will make so much more sense to you. So when I left off the last video, I shared with you guys that I had a Hickman line put in, which is where I received all of my cells, my chemo, and where they took blood from me to check on me every single day. So that was like my lifeline. That was where it give me medication and all of that. Right before I went into the hospital though, I did do a tour and they kind of showed me the transplant floor, and they went over some procedures with me that I would need. So I think this is pretty standard. Everything that went into my room had to be approved. I had to have everything in a case that could be wiped down. So I had to get like a new phone case. I had to get a new iPad cover that could be wiped down. Drinks, anything my parents, my parents got me some like food and drinks and stuff like that to bring into the room. That all had to be wiped down. Clothes. So I had to wash and dry my clothes, and then anything going with me to the hospital had to, when it came out of the dryer, had to immediately go in one of those Ziploc big sealed bags, like a moving bag or a storage bag. I had to do that so they can like wipe that down. And then once I got in the room, they had already sanitized the room to their liking, so things could go in and it was fine after that. But everything had like a landing station right outside my door, and everything that was to come into my room had to be put there for the nurses to okay. So I kind of already knew that, and I had made sure that everything was approved, that I had pictures of my kids that mom had laminated for me. So that way they could literally be wiped down and brought into the room. So I had them like literally right in front of me. It was like, these are my little goals to come home to, the goal to get better. So anyways, I had to get up super early, like 5 in the morning. I couldn't eat past 12. It was like checking in to have a baby. It reminded me of being induced, but unfortunately it was a lot more of a somber check-in. Not happy. I was terrified. Like, I cannot even express to you how scared I was. I had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, you read about it, people give you their experiences, but you just don't know. So I checked in and they immediately got like my IV hooked up. They got my chemo going at like 1 p.m. So it seemed like it did take forever. Like they were preparing my body, getting everything ready. And then, like I said, by noon to 1, it was time for my chemo. So they started my chemo. And that took, gosh, it didn't take that long. I think it was about an hour long. And then it was just kind of a waiting game after that until and then it was just kind of a waiting game after that until exactly 24 hours. And that's when 24 hours later, when I got my cells, the nurse came in and he was like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I definitely cannot leave you for the next 4 hours. So if you have to go to the restroom, you know, I have to help you with everything because I cannot take my eyes off of you, off of your cells. This is like So that was really interesting. Again, you know, the privacy thing, I had shared that in a video back. There's no privacy in a lot of these things. So just one of those things where I had to kind of just suck it up and deal. He was very nice though, very professional and very sweet, and it was fine. But he stayed with me and was wonderful, got my cells, and then it was just kind of a waiting game after that, kind of a waiting game to see like what your body was gonna do. So that day that I got my cells, they like the nurses would come in and they wrote like happy birthday on the board. It was considered my rebirth, getting my new cells. So they were like really sweet about it, and they make a big deal about it, you know. After that, it was just kind of a wait and see game. Had constant monitoring, constantly taking my blood, checking my blood pressure, my heart rate. That was one of the things that was kind of scary. My heart rate went through the roof. It was like I was running, and that was because of the chemo. And they warned me that that could happen, but it was still kind of weird and kind of scary. And it was just something that they definitely were like, all right, we're going to keep an eye on that. You're fine, but you know, hopefully it will eventually go down. But every day they would come in and say, you are doing so good. One of the doctors in particular, he was so sweet, and he was very vivacious, and he would come in and just be like, you are doing amazing. And so I joked with him one day, I said, well, if I'm doing amazing, how are the people that are not doing amazing doing? Because I feel like death. Like, if I'm good, how are people that aren't doing what I'm doing? It blew my mind, but he swore to me every day. I did not need any blood. So I had no blood transfusions, which is practically unheard of. He was so impressed. His whole entire career of being a doctor and doing stem cells, he has had like one or two people that did not need blood transfusions. I did need a bag of platelets, but that was basically it. So he was so impressed with that. I would say day 7, 8 is when I started getting sick. I had an aversion to the water from the get-go. The tap water tasted sweet. So thankfully, my mom kept me stocked with like waters and juices and just anything that I, you know, could even think to handle. My aunt also was a PA up at the Mayo Clinic, and she would call me in the morning and bring me smoothies from Tropical Smoothie. She saved my life because they were like during the times when I started really feeling sick, I didn't think I could stomach anything, and the smoothies just would settle my stomach. Iced coffee would settle my stomach. So between her doing that, my mom bringing me the waters and food, and then my husband bringing me food, and at that point I was just like, I'm in survival mode. I'm doing anything I can to like not hurl, you know, like every single hour on the hour. That was definitely difficult, you know. But they told me if I continued to do as well as I had been, I would be going home 15 days, 15, 16, 17, depending, you know, how I did. And I did it. I did so good that day 14, I believe, they let me go home. It was like 2 weeks to the day, and I got to go home. And so right before I was released, they did take my Hickman line out. So they kind of wheeled me into like an operating room. And they took my line out, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I was terrified of that. Way terrified. More terrified of it coming out than going in. The reason for that is that I think they put me asleep when they put it in, but coming out, I was awake. And my heart rate, I explained to you that the chemo made my heart rate like through the roof. And I was so nervous that I kept telling myself, like, you cannot get nervous because your heart rate is just going to go crazy. Absolutely crazy. So thankfully, the doctor was so sweet, and he was very calming, and he talked to me through like the whole thing. And I was praying the entire time. Like, I remember feeling like the Holy Spirit was like a cloud above me, just enveloping me and keeping me calm. because that's how scared I was. So thankfully I made it through that. And then when that was out, it felt so good. I just kind of had like a little, it was like a little open sore kind of that they bandaged. But it felt so good. And then they wheeled me back into my room, and then it was just a matter of checking out and having my, kind of like checking out of a hotel. They like wheeled me down with all. But finally, when I went home, my sweet mom was ready for me. She had gotten her house all prepared. I had to recover at my mom's house because she lives closer to Mayo. And day 15 is actually when my hair fell out. So by the time I got home, I think it was that night or the next night, my mom went ahead and like shaved my hair. That was really hard. That was like a very dark day. Shaving your hair, definitely wouldn't recommend it. But it was just one of those things where like I knew it was gonna happen, and my mom and my dad like a couple days later took me, and I got a couple of wigs, so I wasn't hairless for very long, and that was such a blessing. They just supported me so much. My husband, my kids. Being away from my kids and my husband was excruciating, but God is good in so many ways. My husband actually lost his job the month that I got diagnosed, and unfortunately he was still without a job come September, and through the help of our family and little side jobs that he would do, we stayed above water. We were able to survive, mainly from the help of like my mom and dad and my family. But you think, oh my gosh, like you're the most unlucky person in the whole world. But when I look back, I see where God just held us in his hands. If my husband hadn't have been home with our kids, my recovery, it would have been almost impossible. I wouldn't have been able to have the time to recover, and he was there to get the kids off to school. Like I missed, so much, but he was able to be there and do everything just because he was home at that time. He did get a job a very short amount of time later. It was the perfect timing. It was God's timing, and I'm so grateful for that. And I can look back and just see where he held us in so many ways. But my wonderful mom, my dad, helped me recover, took me to all my after appointments, and just really built me up again, built my body up. And 100 days after transplant, I received the awesome news that I was in a full clinical remission, no residual of the myeloma. And to this day, I am still in remission, and I am still so grateful for that. I do take a chemo daily, but it's gravy. I can deal with the bad, because it could be worse, and I'm just grateful for what I have and what I'm going through, because I know it could be worse. I do give myself days to feel down and woe is me, and things can be rough, and side effects from the transplant that I still deal with suck, but again, I just choose to be positive. I choose to be grateful. And I know that God has helped me in so many ways. So I just want to say thank you to my family, to my mom, my dad, my husband, my friends, my church. If you have prayed for me, thank you. I feel it, and the power of God is real. Thank you for getting this far, for watching with me. And if you have any questions, let me know. I think for now I'm closing this little myeloma series. If there's any other videos that I can do or questions that I didn't answer, I would totally be able to do that for you guys. Definitely want to do more fun and lighthearted beauty, fashion kind of stuff, so be on the lookout for that. But anyways, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching this video, and I absolutely appreciate it. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.